Hello, it's Alpha here, and today we are going to take a look at some of the Supreme Arena teams that I was using on the Pioneer server, and also just in general talking about some of the things related to Supreme Arena, like the Phantimals and the seasonal artifacts that we have this season. Let's get started with the Phantimals because they are quite a big change when it comes to seasonal content. So instead of the typical faction talents that we've had on the previous seasons, this time we have the Phantimals, and you will activate them in the same way that you did with the faction talents. So just by having 3 heroes of the same faction will give you the Phantimal related to that faction. The Phantimals provide your team with small amount of basic stats, so you can see it here, but it is definitely not the main thing that they will give your team. The main thing is that they basically work as any other hero in your team. So once you place your 3 heroes from the same faction to the battlefield, you will get the Phantimal, and they will interact with all of the things just as any other hero that you can move before the battle starts. So for example, if you have a artifact that targets the backmost hero, and then if your Phantimal is the backmost hero, then they will get the buff from the artifact. And then if you have heroes like Faramore who will buff one nearby ally, then you can, for example, buff your Phantimal with the Faramore's buff. So just think of them as a additional hero on your team. You will level up your Phantimals individually. So one of them can be, for example, level 40, as you can see here, and then one of them can be even level 0. So you don't have to level them equally, and in fact, I don't think you should be leveling them equally. I don't actually know if there is some kind of limitation as to how far apart the levels can be, but you definitely should focus on leveling up a couple of them that you use most, in my opinion. And whenever you level up your Phantimals, they will get new abilities unlocked every 10 levels, or upgrading some of the existing abilities, making them more powerful. And if we take a look at some of the abilities, they kind of follow the same pattern that every Phantimal has their own ultimate ability that works just as any other hero's ultimate ability. Once they reach full energy, they will cast their ultimate ability. Then they have one normal ability. Then on the middle they have their Phantimal Focus, which is just a passive thing that gives them more basic stats like HP and magical defense, etc. And then the fourth ability for all of them is a Spirit Mark ability. They basically work in the same way that your Phantimal will be able to buff one allied hero who is placed behind them. And then the buffs will differ based on which Phantimal you use, so all of them obviously have different buffs. And then the last ability seems to be often very, very powerful effect that they can do, but it will take quite a long time, I think, to unlock it, because you need level 110 to unlock it for the first time. Okay, so now that we understand how the Phantimals work, we can take a closer look at each one of them separately. Now, initially, I had planned that I would go through kind of all of their abilities, but this video would be really long. It would be like an hour-long video, so I decided in the end not to do that. So instead, I'll just give a kind of a summary of the role of the Phantimal in the team, and then some of the other heroes that synergizes with the Phantimals, and some team examples to use with the Phantimals. So based on all of these abilities, he is a support / buffer type hero. He doesn't really do any damage throughout the fight, but he will be providing some healing for your team, and then giving your range heroes damage buffs and defense buffs, and giving a shield for your team when they stay on your side of the battlefield. So you definitely want to build a ranged team that stays on your side of the battlefield, kind of grouped up, so that he can provide energy to all of your heroes and the shielding, etc. So obviously to activate Teseo, you need to have 3 Lightbearer heroes in the first place. So that means that heroes like Zany and Siren are probably the best option to use with him. And then the last hero can be something like Hugin, for example. And then if you think about some other range heroes from Celestial Hydrogen side of things, we have Kulu, And then we have Aliceth, who is also a range hero, and buffs the range of your heroes, etc. So she would work well with this team, I think. And then we have Cryonaya, who could actually also work well, because Cryonaya, you want her to cast the ultimate, so Tessio is able to provide some energy for your Cryonaya and provide some protection for your Cryonaya. So I think she has potential with the Lightbearer faction team as well. And then some other heroes from other factions could be maybe Shemira, a powerful range hero who wants to cast their ultimate as well, or maybe something like Indris, who is also like a range hero. So those are some good options with this team, I think. And I'll show you some team examples a little bit later on, but let's go through the other Phantimals first. Then we have the summary for the Wilder Phantimal, Snow Stomper. They have abilities to do damage, debuff enemies, and crowd control enemies. The interesting thing about Stomper is that once you get them to level 40, which is quite early, you can actually do it already, they will gain 1000 energy at the start of the fight, which means that they can cast their ultimate right away when the battle starts. Snow Stomper synergizes with heroes that do stat reduction debuffs on enemies, so if you can use some of those heroes, that is also beneficial. And Stomper can also be used as Lily May bait, because as we just mentioned, they will start with 1000 energy, which means that they will cast the ultimate right away. So if the enemy team has Lily May, then Lily May will interrupt the Snow Stomper. So some of those heroes that have synergies with Stomper is Indris, because Indris cares also about stat reduction debuffs on enemies, and Stomper can also give stat reduction debuffs to enemies. And then we have Satrana, so with the help of Stomper's ultimate, you can spread the Satrana's debuff on all of the enemies right away when the battle starts. So that means that all of the enemies will have their vitality reduced. So there is synergy there. And for similar reason, you can also use Bonnie in combination with Stomper, because Stomper does magical damage. So that means that they are able to spread the Bonnie's debuff into the enemy team quite quickly. Siren also has the synergy of giving stat reduction debuff on the enemies. And also you can do the trick that if you use Stomper to bait the enemy Lily Mays, then you can combine Siren plus Theodore, so that your Siren can cast his ultimate right away when the battle starts without being interrupted by Lily May. Then we have the Mauler Phantimal, Lone Gaze. And Lone Gaze is a damage dealer / buffer type character. You can kind of think of Lone Gaze as something similar to what Sylvina is. So they jump into the enemy team at the start of the fight and kind of stuns one target. And I would say that in general they synergizes with melee heroes, because you want like multiple heroes to jump into the enemy team. Then I would also say that Lone Gaze probably gets better a bit later on, because the Spirit Mark ability that Lone Gaze has is quite good for melee heroes, but you have to be level 80 to unlock that one. And the last ability that Lone Gaze also has is pretty nice. But yeah, one thing about Lone Gaze is that you obviously need 3 Mauler heroes to activate them. So if you don't have some of these heroes like Gerda, Shakir or Sandrock build up, then I'm not sure that Lone Gaze is going to be that useful. Yeah, then lastly we have the Grim Executioner. I'm not gonna talk about the Celestial Hypergene one, because I don't think most people are gonna be using 3 Celestial Hypergene heroes in one team. And also because I didn't do that much testing with them on the Pioneer server. I think the Celestial Hypergene one is not that great early on, but then once again later, once you unlock some of the other abilities that they have, they become better, but we were not able to test that on the Pioneer because we had the maximum level of 60. So the Grim Executioner is just a tank / debuffer hero that has some crowd control abilities in their kit as well. And yeah, they are just like a overall good tank type of hero that fits well into Greyborn teams, and Greyborn heroes are strong in general for Supreme Arena because you can build a Shemira team or you can build a Bonnie team, so then you will probably end up using this one quite often. I don't necessarily see like huge synergies with any hero when it comes to Grim Executioner. I guess later on he might have some synergy with Shamira because he can give energy to one of your heroes, I think. So that could be nice with Shamira. And also the Grim Executioner deals magic damage, so that means that sometimes he can help spread the aging debuff from Bonnie because that works off of magic damage. One kind of interesting thing about the Grim Executioner is that they have 600 starting energy, which means that if you place them in the front and they will take damage, they are able to cast ultimate quite quickly, and that can help with something like blocking Lily May from interrupting your Shamira. So yeah, I think the common themes with this one is going to be something like Shamira combined with Ludovic and Nero, for example, but then you get the Grim Executioner as the tank, and then you can fill the two spots with some other heroes that you have, like twins, or maybe if you have like Thalia and Saida, that can be also good with Greybone team. And then of course you can do the typical Bonnie, Igor, Satrana type of team. So if we are talking about PvP only, I would probably level up the Wilder one to level 40 first. And then if you are using like one Wilder team or two Wilder teams, that's good. And then probably you are gonna use something like Greybone team, so then leveling up the Grim Executioner a little bit more after leveling up the Wilder one sounds like a good plan to me. Yeah, so these are some of the teams that I have right now on the global server. I have unlocked the level 40 Snow Stomper, but yeah, I don't really have that much data about how well these teams work because it's been only like 2 days. Not that many people have attacked my teams, but these are the ones that I have. If you don't have like the top one, because it uses like Igor and Dunlinger, then you could use maybe the bottom version with the Wilder instead of the Greyborn team. But these are just based on the heroes that I have on my account. Now my account is missing quite a lot of heroes, so of course if I had some other options, I would use them instead. Now these are some of the versions of the Wilder team that I was testing on the Pioneer server when I had more hero selection. So keep that in mind that if you have some of these heroes, you could maybe try using them instead of the ones that I showed there. So one great synergy with the Snowstomper, I think, is with Indris. So you could do some kind of like Indris team that I have there. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly that one. Instead of Leica, you could definitely use something else like Ravion, for example, or some other Wilder hero. And instead of Walker, you could definitely use some other hero. Grim Executioner teams if you have some of the other Celestial Hypergen heroes. So I was trying to come up with a team that utilizes Saida and Athalia with the Grim Executioner, kind of like a stall team, and Athalia hopefully kills the enemy team, or maybe Saida kills the enemy team, so something like this could work. And then the other version is kind of like a Shemira team combined with Aliceth. Then these are some examples of the Lightbearer team that I was testing on the Pioneer server. I think Zany is really good if you are using the Lightbearer faction team, and pretty much all of them also utilizes the artifact that we don't have right now. So I think this is not necessarily as good team right now, but once you like unlock some more levels on the Lightbearer Phantimal and you unlock like the artifact for him, then this team was actually like, at least it seems to be like quite powerful team.